By 6:10 a.m., a convoy of tow trucks had swept into the lot like a tactical strike team. Engines roared, tires squealed, and the luxury vehicles, Audis, Teslas, and Lexus SUVs, began lifting into the air one by one. 20 furious residents in silk robes and gym wear swarmed the trucks, shouting, crying, calling lawyers. The HOA president, Karen Whitmore, stood in the middle of the chaos, mouth agape, phone to her ear, demanding someone shut this madness down. I watched it all from the second-floor window of my office with a mug of black coffee in hand. And when Karen locked eyes with me across the parking lot, she knew I'd declared war. Now let's rewind. Let's go back to the Monday that started it all. Drop your city below. We want to see how far this story has reached. I arrived at my office in Ravenhill Heights, a wealthy suburb on the outskirts of Phoenix, Arizona, with a to-do list a mile long. My tech startup, Obsidian Digital, had just landed its biggest contract to date, and this week was launch week. Except there was no parking. All 10 spaces in the lot I legally owned behind our building were full of unfamiliar vehicles. Mercedes, Volvos, a minivan with a toddler's sippy cup on the dash. Not one belonged to my staff. "What the hell?" I muttered, circling twice before giving up and parking 2 blocks away at a metered spot. I was already fuming when I walked into the office. Tasha, my operations manager, greeted me with a scowl and 2 canceled appointment slips. Clients couldn't find parking. They bailed. I dropped my laptop on my desk and looked out the back window again. A car was reversing into the space marked CEO Obsidian Digital. "That's your spot," Tasha said. "Oh, I noticed," I replied, grabbing my phone. The lot was ours, clearly defined in the deed when I bought the building 3 years ago. But there was a new sign I hadn't seen before, planted by the fence. Temporary overflow parking, approved by Evergreen Valley HOA. Evergreen Valley was a gated community just behind our office strip, rows of sterile luxury townhomes. I'd heard about their HOA before. Strict, pretentious, ruthless. I called the number on the sign and was eventually patched through to Doug, a vaguely disinterested property manager. "Oh yeah, that's Evergreen Valley," he said. "Their visitor lot is getting resurfaced, so the HOA approved temporary parking with the adjacent business lot." "No one approved anything with me," I said coldly. "I own that lot." "Oh," click, click, click. Karen Whitmore, the HOA president, told us she had permission from the property owner. "I am the property owner." "Oh." Pause. Awkward. By lunch, I'd printed and placed laminated notes on every windshield. "This is private property. Unauthorized vehicles will be towed. Please do not park here. Obsidian Digital." The next morning, my team arrived to find the same cars plus 3 more. My reserved spot was taken again. And my laminated signs? Ripped off, crumpled on the ground. But the pièce de résistance? A sticky note on my door in looping cursive. Karen said it's fine. Maybe you should learn to be a better neighbor. That afternoon, I drove to Evergreen Valley. The security gate didn't budge until I said the words, "I'm here to speak with Karen Whitmore." 10 minutes later, I was ushered into the HOA clubhouse, where Karen waited with a faux warm smile and a file folder she never opened. She looked early 60s, perfectly preserved, draped in pastel linen and pearls. The kind of woman who had a Pilates instructor, a divorce lawyer, and a city councilman all on speed dial. "I understand there's been some confusion," she said airily. "There's no confusion," I said. "Your residents are illegally parking on my property. My business is suffering." "Well," she sighed, "we're repaving our visitor lot. It's a short-term emergency. And the previous owner, Mr. Halverson, was always cooperative. He allowed us to use those spaces whenever we needed." "I bought that building 3 years ago. There was no agreement included in the purchase. Show me documentation." She clicked her tongue and opened her folder, completely empty. "I'm afraid I don't have it on hand, but it exists. And besides, you've had plenty of room until now. Let's not be difficult." "I'll give you 1 week," I said, standing. 5 spaces clearly marked for 7 days. After that, no more. Karen's smile widened, and something cold flickered behind her eyes. "Of course, I'll notify our residents immediately." I walked out of that clubhouse knowing damn well she wouldn't. The next day, there were 12 vehicles in the lot. My entire team was parked on the street again, One client had already canceled, another rescheduled. I slammed my fist into the desk. Tasha leaned into the doorframe. Are we going to let this woman walk all over us? No, I said. That night, I stayed late at the office, pulled property records, called the county archives, emailed my real estate lawyer, tracked down Halverson, the building's former owner, now retired in Oregon. I remember that HOA, he said with a chuckle. They tried the same thing with me, wanted a formal parking easement. I told them to go to hell. There's nothing on record. They're bluffing. That was all I needed to hear. The next morning, I called Titan Tow and Recovery, a company that handled high-end neighborhoods and wasn't afraid of HOA drama. Can you install towing signage? Absolutely, they replied, and we'll be ready to roll 24 hours after posting. I ordered 6 signs and watched as they were bolted into place at dawn the next day. Private property, unauthorized vehicles will be towed at owner's expense. Then I sent a formal email to Karen and Evergreen's property management company. Effective immediately, all unauthorized vehicles will be subject to tow. The previous owner confirmed no parking agreement exists. Any claims otherwise are considered fraudulent. Enforcement begins Friday at 6 a.m. Her reply was instant. You're making a massive mistake. You'll regret this. I didn't reply. I just scheduled coffee for 5:30 a.m. and waited. 6 a.m. Friday. Tires screeched, hydraulic arms hissed, engines growled, and the tow trucks rolled in. 12 luxury vehicles, one HOA president's fragile ego, dozens of residents in chaos. And me? I sipped my coffee and whispered, "Let's dance, Karen." By 9 a.m., half of Evergreen Valley was in a meltdown. The HOA Facebook group was on fire. Angry posts, all caps rants, blurry cell phone videos of tow trucks hauling away their precious Teslas. One post from a woman named Tiffany R. called me a heartless tech bro ruining the community vibe. Karen Whitmore was tagged in every comment. Her response? We are handling this situation through proper legal channels. Please refrain from further escalation. But I was already 5 moves ahead. By midday, I'd received 2 voicemails from Evergreen's property management firm, asking for urgent mediation. I ignored them. Then came the emails, 10 in 1 hour, all variations of the same plea. Reverse the TOWs, reimburse residents, reinstate the old agreement. There was no agreement. The final message came directly from Karen. This vendetta of yours is immature and short-sighted. If you persist, I'll have no choice but to involve city authorities. It wasn't a warning. It was a threat wrapped in a velvet glove. Tasha rolled her eyes when she read it over my shoulder. She's unraveling. She's regrouping, I corrected, and she's not done. That evening, after the office emptied out, I decided to drive through Evergreen Valley to clear my head and scope out the aftermath. The gated entrance was unguarded, unusual. As I cruised past the perfectly trimmed hedges and beige townhomes, I saw a crowd gathered at the community clubhouse, fold-out chairs, projector screen, coffee table, snacks, a meeting. Curious, I pulled over and parked 2 blocks away, then walked through the open rear gate behind the pool area. From a shadowed corner, I watched Karen stand at the front of the clubhouse in a crisp white blazer, addressing the crowd like a politician trying to calm a scandal. "This is a misunderstanding," she said, voice poised but tense. "The business owner, Mr. Calder, has taken extreme measures, but we will not be bullied." Several residents clapped. A few shouted agreement. Karen raised her hand for silence. "Rest assured, we have legal standing. I have documentation. If he continues to harass us, I will press charges." My blood ran cold. Press charges? I slipped out before she saw me. The next morning, I arrived to find a hand-delivered envelope taped to our office door. A letter on fancy letterhead from a law firm, Camden and Firth LLP, a boutique legal firm that specialized in HOA defense. They were threatening legal action, intentional disruption of community operations, loss of property use, emotional distress. I read the letter twice, then a third time. It was laughable, except for one detail. In the complaint, Karen claimed there was a signed easement agreement from 2007 inches, allowing limited overflow parking rights during community maintenance emergencies. I nearly choked. "Now she's fabricating documents," I said, storming into Tasha's office. "This isn't just power tripping anymore, this is fraud." "What do we do?" she asked. "We find out who helped her write it." That evening, I contacted Mr. Halverson again, the former owner of our building. I read him the claim. 2007? He barked. "I didn't even live in Arizona yet. I moved here in 2009. He emailed me the full property history, including a legal note from his lawyer rejecting an easement proposal from Evergreen Valley in 2012, a written refusal. It was ironclad. I forwarded the entire package to Camden and Firth with a polite message. "Here's the real property history. If your client continues filing false legal claims, I'll file a countersuit for harassment and attempted fraud." They didn't reply. The next day, I received a different kind of message, an anonymous email from an encrypted Proton mail address. Subject: "Karen isn't just abusing her power, she's hiding something bigger." Attached, a scanned spreadsheet, Evergreen Valley HOA expenses. Last 12 months line items popped off the page. Landscaping services, $89,400. Pool cleaning, $31,000. Community event catering, $27,000. Private consulting fee, K. Whitmore, $9, $500 month. That wasn't legal, not under standard HOA law, and definitely not disclosed. I checked the metadata. The document had been created by M. Whitmore, 88. Karen's daughter? That night, someone rang the buzzer at our office at 11:37 p.m. I was still working. I checked the security camera. A woman in her early 30s stood at the door, hoodie up, pacing nervously. I opened the intercom. "Who are you?" "I'm Maya Whitmore," she said, "Karen's daughter, and I think it's time someone told you what she's been doing." I buzzed Maya in, heart pounding. She stepped inside, pulling down her hoodie. Same striking cheekbones as Karen, but none of the venom in her eyes. Her hands trembled as she sat down across from me in the conference room. "I can't stay long," she said. "My mom doesn't know I'm here." "Why now?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. "You could have warned me before cars got towed, before the legal threats." She looked down. "I didn't know it would go this far. She's unhinged, but it's more than that." Maya pulled out a thumb drive. "You're not the first person she's pulled this on, but you're the first one who fought back." She handed me the drive and stood. "Start with the HOA payments folder, then check the consultant invoices. Look at who they're written out to." I stood too. "Why are you doing this?" She hesitated, then said, "Because she thinks she's invincible, and because last year she fined my best friend's mom for hanging a pride flag and claimed it was non-conforming aesthetic design. My mom doesn't just abuse power, she weaponizes it." Maya opened the door, then paused. "And whatever you do, don't trust Doug. He's not just property management, he's in on it." Then she was gone. I didn't sleep that night. The drive contained every Evergreen Valley financial record for the past 2 years, internal HOA memos, payment logs, copies of vendor contracts, and one name kept appearing, Sundale Holdings, LLC. It was listed as a consulting firm charging $9,500 a month for resident engagement services, but it didn't exist in any Arizona business directory. Then I noticed something odd. Sundale's invoice mailing address matched the one Karen used for her personal Amazon packages. The signature on every Sundale invoice? Karen's. She'd invented a fake company to siphon HOA money into her own account. There was more, a lot more. A landscaping contract to Whitmore Landscaping, owned by her cousin. Community improvement budgets that never resulted in actual improvements. Nearly $400,000 in unexplained event expenses since 2021. This wasn't petty HOA overreach, this was full-blown embezzlement, and worse, some of the signatures on the approval forms looked forged, including the vice president's. The next morning, I met with Robert Vasquez, Evergreen's HOA vice president, at a neutral diner across town. He looked nervous, worn down. He ordered black coffee and didn't touch it. "She's going to come after me," he said after I showed him what I found. "If I speak out, she'll bury me. She threatened my wife's bakery last year when she voted against one of Karen's proposals." I laid out my files. "This isn't politics anymore, it's theft. If you stay silent, you're complicit." He stared at the spreadsheet for a long time. Then he asked, "What's the play?" "We go public, but not before the next board meeting. We need her boxed in." "Then you'll need backup," he said quietly, "and protection. Karen's got connections. She brags about them all the time. The mayor, the building inspector, the permits office, and Doug, I added. Property manager. Robert nodded slowly. Yeah, Doug too. 2 days later, Karen retaliated. I arrived at my office to find a notice from the Department of Zoning posted on my door. Immediate cease and desist permit irregularities under review. I laughed out loud. She had actually weaponized city permits. But I was ready. I called my lawyer, sent copies of everything Maya had provided, and filed an ethics complaint with the City Accountability Office. Then I sent a press release to every local news station. HOA president under investigation for fraud, threats, and abuse of power. Local business owner takes stand. That night, I received a message from an unknown number. Back off, you're out of your depth. I replied with a photo of the HOA contract signed by Karen under a fake name. Then I posted it on the HOA's public Facebook page. Within 10 minutes, the thread exploded. Residents demanded answers. Some defended her. Others accused her of years of abuse. Someone uploaded a voice recording of her threatening to increase someone's dues unless they voted correctly in the last election. By morning, 3 board members had called an emergency HOA meeting for Saturday night. The word was out, and Karen was cornered. Saturday came fast. I entered the Evergreen Clubhouse to a room packed wall to wall. Neighbors, reporters, HOA board members, residents I'd never seen before. Karen sat at the head of the long table, dressed like she was hosting a charity gala, with a faux calm that cracked at the edges. As soon as I stepped up to the podium, her eyes narrowed. "Mr. Calder," she said, "you are not a member of this community. You have no right to speak." Robert Vasquez stood. "He does now. As of this morning, I've authorized temporary community membership under Section 3.4 of our charter. Guest stakeholders may speak at public meetings in matters of public interest." Karen's jaw clenched. I stepped forward and opened my laptop. "I'm here to talk about $726,000 in unaccounted HOA funds, about fake companies, forged signatures, intimidation tactics, and the misuse of city authority for personal gain." Karen stood up so fast her chair screeched backward. "This is slander!" I clicked the remote. A projection of the Sundale Holdings invoice filled the wall. "No, this is documentation." The room erupted, shouting, questions, flashing phones, residents yelling about their raised dues, a woman crying in the front row. Karen tried to regain control. "This is a smear campaign. None of this is admissible. It's fabricated." But then Maya stepped forward from the crowd. "No, Mom," she said softly, voice trembling but firm. "I gave it to him." Karen turned slowly. "You, what? You crossed the line, Mom, years ago, and I'm not protecting you anymore." Karen's face twisted. "You ungrateful little—" Wham! The doors burst open. 2 uniformed officers entered the clubhouse. "Karen Whitmore," one said, pulling out a folded document, "you're being served. City Ethics Office has opened a formal investigation into abuse of office and financial misconduct. You'll need to come with us for questioning." The room went still. Karen's perfect mask finally shattered. Her pearl bracelet snapped as she lunged for the officer's sleeve. "You think I'm going down for this? I built this neighborhood. I own these people." But no one moved to stop them. Karen Whitmore was escorted out of the clubhouse in handcuffs. 1 month later. The posters of Karen in a matching pastel skirt suit and a forced smile were gone from every gate in Evergreen Valley. In their place, notices announcing a special election to replace the deposed HOA president. The air in the community felt raw. A mixture of relief, anger, and shame drifted among neighbors who'd once idolized Karen Whitmore. But as details trickled out about Sundale Holdings, her fake company, and the forged checks, that idol shattered. I attended the HOA's emergency meeting as a guest, an odd feeling. Last time I'd stepped in that clubhouse, Karen had been dragged out in handcuffs. This time, the crowd wasn't just angry. They were hopeful. Robert Vasquez, no longer trembling or overshadowed, stood at the front. "We owe a debt of gratitude," he said, nodding in my direction. "Not only for exposing the fraud, but for reminding us that accountability matters." I raised a hand awkwardly. "Trust me, I didn't set out to become the HOA's watchdog. I just wanted my parking spots back." Laughter rippled through the room. a tension breaker in what had been a tense month. In the weeks since Karen's arrest, Doug from the property management firm suddenly retired. Investigators discovered he'd been funneling inflated landscaping invoices to Karen's cousin for kickbacks. The local city ethics office launched an audit on building permits and discovered dozens of suspicious approvals linked to Karen's name. Multiple city employees resigned to avoid the spotlight. A few faced charges of their own. The HOA's bank accounts were frozen pending a forensic audit. Over $700,000 of member dues and fines were still unaccounted for. Residents formed a new committee for transparency. Some of the same folks who once wrote me hate mail were now championing monthly open ledger meetings. Even Maya, Karen's daughter, stepped into a leadership role, helping track down missing funds, investigating other HOA anomalies, and comforting longtime residents blindsided by the betrayal. "This is bigger than one person," she told me one afternoon, helping distribute new key fobs for the clubhouse. "People think HOAs are just about lawn heights and paint colors, but real power can hide in the mundane." I nodded. "And that power can corrupt fast," she smiled sadly. "Thanks for not giving up, even when everyone called you a villain." Karen's court date arrived on a blistering Wednesday. The local courthouse bustled with reporters and curious onlookers. While the charges were still pending full trial, she showed up flanked by 2 lawyers from Camden and Firth. I watched from a back row with Robert and Maya. My stomach churned at how calm she appeared. Lipstick perfect, pearls glinting under fluorescent lights. You'd never guess she was accused of embezzlement, fraud, and forging HOA documents. Her lawyers argued for a plea deal. The prosecution countered with more charges. By the time it was over, Karen exited the courtroom, face pale with anger. She spotted me across the hall. Her expression twisted, some complex mix of resentment and regret. For a moment, it looked like she wanted to say something. Then she vanished behind her attorneys. Near sunset, just as I was about to head out, my phone buzzed with an email. The sender, Evergreen Valley HOA. Subject, official thank you from the newly elected board. A digital certificate glowed on the screen, awarding Obsidian Digital a free sponsorship space on the HOA's website. Plus, ironically, an honorary resident parking pass for any future visits. It was purely symbolic, but still made me grin. The biggest shock? Attached to the email was an updated financial statement. Every line item open for public viewing, posted in real time on their new transparency portal, something I never thought I'd see from this HOA.